Mrs. Omololumulele was a renowned educationist, lawyer, and philanthropist par excellence. Our philanthropic spirit was best demonstrated in the endowment of 38 million naira, I think now 58 million naira, for the Candido Da Rocha annual lecture in accountancy as a legacy gift to the Osun State University in her last will and testament, which was later increased with additional 20 million naira in 2020. She had made similar endowments to the Department of Pharmacy and the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology of the University of Lagos, a Catholic seminary, and the Catholic University, Abuja. The endowment of the Candido Da Rocha annual lecture in accountancy is a demonstration of our commitment to stimulate and advance the frontiers of knowledge in accountancy. Mrs. Abimbola Aino Omololumulele passed on to eternal glory on the 19th day of May, 2009. Can we please observe 1 minute of silence? Please let's stand as 1 minute of silence. May our gentle soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To all the people that are currently online, we recognize you. I understand that the chairman and president of ICANN Nigeria, Mrs. Comfort Oluweyitayo Hemenai, FCA, is currently online. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you very much. On this note, I would like to quickly invite Dr. Adekomi to read the citation of the guest lecturer. Please let us appreciate Dr. Adekomi as he comes forward.
Please permit me to stand, at the same time sit on the existing protocol. With due respect, sir, Professor Leslie Edebo, may I please ask you to please rise, sir. I present the citation of Professor Leslie Eyeson Dabo to you. Professor Leslie Dabo was born in Lagos State, Nigeria, on the 22nd of January, 1970. He started his primary school at Lagos Progressive Primary School in Surulere, Lagos. He later attended Hami Children's School, Patako, in Jos, and completed it at Hami Children's School, Kawo, Kaduna in 1981. He proceeded to St. Joseph's College in Vom, Plateau State, for his secondary school education and obtained the General Certificate of Education, that's GCE, with 8 A's. He studied advanced level economics, mathematics, and geography at Federal School of Arts and Science, Suleja, Niger State in 1989. After working briefly at Shungai Construction Company and AG Ferraro Construction Company for a while, he got admitted into the University of Benin to study accounting. In 1996, he graduated from that same university with a second-class upper division and was posted to Enugu State in 1998. In 1997, he finished his NYSC in 1997, and upon completion of that NYSC, he went to the University of Benin for his master's degree. It was in the August of that same 1998 he was appointed as graduate assistant in the Department of Accounting, University of Benin. He completed his master's in accounting degree in the year 2000 and was appointed lecturer 2 in the same year. completed a master's degree in business administration in 2006, and a PhD in accounting from the University of Benin in 2013. He was appointed Lecturer 1, Senior Lecturer, Associate Professor, and Professor of Accounting in the years 2006, 2009, 2013, and 2016, respectively. Professor Leslie was appointed Deputy Vice Chancellor, Michael and Cecilia Hebrew University in 2018, as the Head Accounting, Banking and Finance, Delta State in 2019, and Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, University of Benin, January 2021 till date. He is the Chairman, Housing Committee of the University of Benin, is a member of the University Subcommittee and the Chairman Ad hoc Committee on Fraud Allegation in the University Staff Club. Professor Leslie UNIOSUN Dabo published books and journals locally, nationally, and internationally, and has attended both local and international conferences. He is the author of Basic Business Accounting, Mastering Management Accounting, and 51 journal articles. His area of specialization is financial reporting, with particular emphasis on accounts manipulation. He has also published articles in areas of auditing and management accounting. He is currently focusing on accounting theory as an area of research interest. He has supervised 10 PhD students and numerous master students, both in accounting and business administration. Professor Leslie UNIOSUN Dabo is a tax and management consultant to a number of companies. He is also a resource person of SABIC, consult for management training of staff of both banks and oil companies in Nigeria. Professor Dabo is a public speaker. He has been invited to speak at the induction of Chartered Accountants by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and at the matriculation ceremony of Michael and Cecilia Hebrew University. Professor Dabo is a member of ICANN and of the American Accounting Association. He is happily married to Dr. Mrs. Dorothy Dabo, and they are blessed with 4 boys, named Daniel, Diamond, David, and Dominion. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Leslie UNIOSUN Dabo. Thank you, sir.
The Vice Chancellor, sir, the Chairman of Council, members of management team, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, too numerous to mention individually, ladies and gentlemen, and of course I know the press is here also. Permit me also to stand on existing protocol also. It's a privilege to be here this afternoon. I was not built to be here, but I think it's by divine act that I found myself here. It's quite a privilege to be here. I've just had some interaction with our Vice Chancellor, and it's wonderful. I know something is working here. The Vice Chancellor, sir, the title of this lecture, the second Candido Da Rocha's lecture, is Sustainable Economic Growth and Development During a Recession, Practical Lessons and Professional Accountant Solution. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I know that as a forest economist and of course once a director of sustainable development at University of Ibadan, I'm sure you are very familiar, you are on familiar grounds, and you will correct me wherever I go wrong. According to Ban Ki-moon 2013, Ban Ki-moon was United Nations scribe. He says that sustainable development is the pathway to the future we want for all. It offers a framework to generate economic growth, achieve social justice, exercise environmental stewardship, and strengthen governance. However, earlier in 2001, Kofi Annan, who was also a United Nations scribe, had expressed concern about how do we capture, measure, operationalize, conceptualize this very enigmatic concept of sustainable development. How do we capture it, and how do we reflect it in our development agenda? According to Aristotle, he said before you can understand anything, you have to trace the beginning of that thing and its development. You must go to the origin. You can't understand anything without getting to the root of that thing. And on the basis of that, our introduction will try to trace the development, the source and the development of sustainable development as a concept. We can trace the root of sustainable development to Malthus, 1978. In his theory, he asserted that global food supply will not be able to sustain the world based on the population growth rate. However, it was found that the theory did not stand because of technological developments. For the first time in 1972, in Human Environment Conference in Stockholm, they addressed the issue of sustainability on a global level. The major outcome of that conference was the Stockholm Declaration on Human Environment, and specifically, Principle 13 declared the need for integration and coordination in development planning to allow for environmental protection. Further to the Stockholm Declaration is the Butler Report of 1987, entitled Our Common Future. The report provided a clear definition of sustainable development, which is widely quoted as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. If we can stand by this particular definition, and if our development agenda is focused upon this principle of thinking about our future, even at the individual level, I don't think there's anybody who's going to survive who's not thinking about tomorrow, how tomorrow will be. I'm sure many of us, our decisions as of today is based on what we expect the tomorrow of our children to be. It will be an error for a whole nation not to think about its tomorrow. The Rio Earth Summit in 1992 enlarged the concept of sustainable development, and its output included the Rio Declaration Agenda 21, and contained in that agenda are issues of quality of life, efficient use of natural resources, protection of global commons, management of human settlements, sustainable economic growth. The Kyoto Conference of 1997 developed the Kyoto Protocols aimed at cutting down emissions of greenhouse gases. These conferences have brought out output, but so far, so bad. We cannot see it reflected in our own policy here. It was just last week I was behind one of these companies that produce something. I was behind their truck. The amount of fumes that was coming out of that truck was enough to blind me. I couldn't see the truck. And I'm sure the rules are there. It's just that as we are here, the rules are not followed and applied. I believe I read road traffic rules that say that if you have a car that's emitting gas, you'll be fined 50,000 naira. I don't think that road safety does that, because those people really go free. The Millennium Development Goal was the next attempt at sustainable development. The goal expressed in practical terms the equilibrium between social, economic, and environmental pillars of sustainable development. Unfortunately, the world has to deal with dangerous blend of indifference and concealment and ultimately rebuild the trust between people, business, and government despite desperately needed if we are going to stand any chance in achieving the Millennium Development Goals to combat poverty, disease, and deprivation. That's Gorbachev 2006. From that his statement, we find that development agenda should address issues of poverty, issues of health, and of course issues of deprivation. We are now in 2021, and as far as sustainable development is contained from MDGs, we can say it's not yet Uhuru, it's not yet peace for us, and hence the Sustainable Development Goals which produce the SDGs in 2015. Based on these historical narratives, sustainable development may be viewed as general and continuous improvement in standard and quality of life of citizens of a country through adopting economic policies and strategies that take into cognizance social and environmental concerns that are likely to jeopardize the quality and standard of living of future generations. A right-thinking and forward-looking government will therefore adopt economic policies and strategies that strike a balance between the present and the future standards and quality of life of its citizens. Therefore, our concern or the objective of our study is to examine sustainable growth and development in the context of a recession from a professional accountant's viewpoint. This objective is salient because we are just coming out of a recession, and the lessons so learned and the experiences so gained, if properly harnessed, will help us in the future. It is possible for an economy to grow and not develop, but it's not possible for the economy to develop without growth. When an economy grows without improvement in quality and standards of life of its citizen, we'll say that there's no development. I will take the lecture in 7 sections. The first section, I've looked at the introduction. The second section, I look at conceptual issues. In the third session, we'll look at the state of the Nigerian economy. Fourthly, we'll look at the accountant, economic growth and sustainable development. And then in section 6, we concern ourselves with recession, practical lessons, and accountant solution. In section 7, we recommend. Of course, this area of lecture is not strictly accounting. That's why it's appropriate for us to conceptualize. Of course, I did a master's in economics, but I had to drop it out because I did it then. Because as at the time I got my master's, there were really no places where you could do a PhD. So I wanted to do a PhD in economics and remain in my accounting. So I did a master's. While I did the master's, I was fortunate to get an admission to read PhD. So I dropped it off along the way. But I finished the coursework for the master's. So it is based on that knowledge and my knowledge of accounting that I put this lecture together. There are conceptual issues. The first concept we need to understand, I believe that I'm talking to a mix of economists and non-economists, all right? So economic growth is simply increase in the value of goods and services produced within an economy after discounting for inflation. After discounting for inflation. When we discount for inflation, it becomes real, not nominal. Because you can have growth as a result of inflation if we look at only value in terms of naira. So economic growth is increase in the value of goods and services produced within an economy as a result of increase in economic activity, not increase in prices of goods and services. Economic growth is closely linked to increases in production, consumption, and resource use, and has detrimental effects on natural environment and health. It is natural that when we want to grow, we have to tap into our resources. But when we talk about sustainability, we are trying to balance the depletion of resources now and development for the future. We can actually strike a balance with proper policies and planning. There are other dimensions of growth. There are new and modern perspectives to growth. You have degrowth, post-growth, green growth, and donut economics. Degrowth is an umbrella term for more radical academic, political, and social movements that emphasize the need to reduce production and consumption and define goals other than economic growth. In other words, we should not just focus on growth alone. We must think in terms of other qualitative measures of growth. And then, of course, we are post-growth is agnostic about growth. This school of thought focuses on the need to decouple well-being from economic growth. In other words, you can be growing, but the well-being is not there. If we are depleting the environment, exposing our citizens to danger, destroying our forests, destroying our water, destroying life, we're not really thinking of well-being. So, the third category is the green growth, based on eco-modernist thoughts that invest its hope in scientific and technological progress, and is directed towards sustainability. In other words, green growth means fostering economic growth and development while ensuring that natural assets continue to provide the resources and environmental services on which our well-being relies. Donut growth combines attention to legitimate needs of the present human population with the need for transformation into a sustainable future. Historically, the key factor for enabling a country to improve the life chances of their citizens, including the destiny of society, is economic growth. And so we look at why economic growth? Why should a country grow? In fact, it's fundamental to every other thing. First of all, where there's economic growth, there will be reduction in poverty. Of course, if economic activities increase and output increases, of course, we'll be talking about more employment, more jobs, improved quality of life. Research has shown that for China, 450 million people came out of poverty since 1979. Of course, evidence also shows that rapid economic growth between 1985 and 2001 was crucial to enormous reduction of poverty globally. In India, impressive growth record is significantly correlated with noticeable fall in poverty since the 80s, and even more decline in poverty in the 90s. Of course, in Mozambique, here in Africa, the rapid reduction in poverty is associated with growth over a shorter period, between 1990, just five-year period. Between 1996 and 2002, the economy grew 62%, and the proportion of people living in poverty declined 69% from 54%. Whatever there's growth also, you expect society to transform. And transformation here is in the context of inequality. Where there's growth, inequality is bound to reduce. Reduction in income inequality is used as a proxy for societal transformation. And when I talk about income inequality, I'm talking about the gyration between the rich and the poor. Where inequality increases with increase in growth, the poor will benefit less than other households. However, empirically, there is a mixed outcome on the nexus between economic growth and inequality. For example, Revlon 2001 observes that the experiences of developing countries in the 1980s and 1990s suggest that suggests there are equal chances of growth being accompanied with increasing or decreasing inequality. However, the conclusion generally is that the moment there is growth, the tendency for inequality to reduce is higher. Economic growth also creates employment. On the whole, empirical research has found a significant relationship between employment and economic growth. Economic growth is also the basis for human development. We have said that you can grow and not develop, but you cannot develop without growing, because it is the growth that is spread within among citizens that you call development. Sen 1999 states that with economic growth, expanding substantive freedom that people value will be difficult. I mean, without economic growth. These freedoms include such things as greater opportunities for people to become healthier, eat better, and live longer, and imply improvements in general living standard. Strong economic growth therefore advances human development, which in turn promotes economic growth. So there's a bicausality between economic growth and human development. As the economy grows and human capital develop, it also affects growth on the other side. Okay? Then economic growth improves health and education. Research has shown that higher levels of income reduces infant mortality. India demonstrates the strength of this relationship. For example, a 10% increase in GDP is associated with a reduction in infant mortality of between 5 and 7%. Primary and secondary school enrollment rates are positively associated with higher levels of per capita income. I look also at the theories of growth. I don't want to bore you with all the theories. The summary of the theories of growth is that researchers try to find out what are the reasons why countries grow. And I can summarize that in few words. In summary, economic growth is dependent on the level of savings. If our nation must grow, then we must save. We must not exhaust our excess oil reserve for frivolous reasons. When you save, you will invest, then you will grow. The size and the type of capital investment is important. Our capital investment must be focused on human capital. There are several nations that don't have resources, but they have grown. A typical example is Singapore, that is on a sand dune. And just how many years? Just 50 years. In 1950, Singapore was nowhere. But because of investment in human capital, that place has become a factory. Japan is also an example. So, we want to grow. We must treat our universities very well. You know, we have to focus on our universities. The state of our universities is positively correlated with our underdevelopment. We really need to do something about it. The average person who has his money will not allow his children to school in Nigeria. It's amazing. That's not to say that we are not still churning out scholars. There are people who are exceptional. You just have to be exceptional to meet international standards. Of course, the rate of technological progress is also important. So why are we investing in our universities? If our universities, and I read an article at the time and I was really sorry. Somebody was just saying that, look, where are the African scientists? Very simple activity like transforming cassava to garri. Should it be manual at this time? So what are our universities doing? What are our technological institutes doing? Basic technology that can help us do small things. We need to begin to think of how to develop them. Then, of course, human capital development. Institutional factors are there. Following the rule of law, political systems, you know, we have to work on that. And, of course, the openness of markets. Key in 2004 identified 9 potential drivers of economic growth to include expanding export and imports. Expanding export and import substitution. I think I and the VC just had a chat just now. It was talking about Nigeria becoming the highest producer of rice within this short period of 2015 till now, when rice was banned. And he was saying there are some professors who believe that banning importation of rice is bad for Nigeria. I mean, that's simple economics. If you are importing more than you're exporting, you can never grow. So we must think in terms of export promotion and import substitution. We talk about increased productivity through training and development. That's how you increase productivity. Specialization and trade. We cannot be jack of all trades. What is Nigeria known for? For selling crude oil? That's not specialization. We need to find areas where we fit in, and then the whole world is coming to us because we have specialized knowledge in that area. But you know, one of the most unfortunate things for us this time is that those specialists that should have helped Nigeria, they are being drained away because the environment is not so conducive. I just met a consultant about last month, and he said, it's only my category of consultant that will remain in this country. The younger ones, not one person. You ask the average person who's reading medicine. These people read medicine with 50,000 a year. And then after reading medicine, they are drained abroad to go and settle in some foreign countries where they help their health sector. We can't grow that way. If you look at 50,000, I was saying, if you go to a private university, you are likely to pay like 2 million. And if you are paying 50,000, that means government is subsidizing like 1.9 million per medical student. Take that for all the medical students we produce in a year. That's awesome. Yet, those people are not serving the country. They are going to move away because the environment is not conducive. And that means that we will remain underdeveloped, because part of development is health. How many people who are well placed can boast of receiving their treatment here in Nigeria? I don't think there's any. That's not development. We need to work on that. Then, of course, we need to look at human capital. We need to look at innovation. You know, sometimes you talk about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not buying and selling. That's not what will change society. Just buy 5 naira and sell 10 naira. No. What the kind of entrepreneurship that will change society is innovative entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurship, scientific entrepreneurship, technological one. That's the kind of entrepreneurship that will raise our country up. I think it's recently I heard that some Middle East countries have started producing airplanes. We need to begin to produce something for ourselves, something technological. Then, of course, agglomeration of businesses. Businesses need to come together. All these splinter business, small businesses cannot make for development. We need to have big businesses. Mobilize capital. The next concept we look at is economic development. Economic development has 3 components. It has self-esteem, sustenance, and freedom. Sustenance is ability to meet your basic needs. Self-esteem is self-worth, self-respect. You know, and then of course we have freedom. If you don't have choice, then you are not developed. If the only choice you have is one, that's not development. You must be able to have alternatives and have ability to access those alternatives. That's what we call development. If your choices are restricted, you cannot say you are developed. It is therefore impossible to have economic growth without development. However, without growth, there cannot be development. The difference between growth and development is that one is strictly quantitative. Economic growth is quantitative, but development has qualitative dimensions to it. Okay. The Millennium Development Goal and target for 2050 identify areas of development concerns. These areas include poverty alleviation. That's very key. It transcends every other thing. Education. Education. I think I checked the list of universities, of the ratings of universities in Nigeria. In the first 2,000 universities in Nigeria, it's only UI that appeared. University of consistently. That's the only university. And we are When I was in secondary, I attended a secondary school. You know, one of the things that really baffles me these days, I attended a secondary school, and none of my teacher was in Nigeria. My principal was a white man. My career master was a white man. My teachers were Indians, Ghanaians, Cameroonians. I was taught by foreigners in Nigeria. But I'm shocked that in my university, it's only Benin people that are there. No other tribe. So if you go to the University of Benin, see Benin people. If you go to the University of Lagos, see only Yoruba people. We cannot have, that's not education. Somebody was looking at America and said, what is the greatest reason why America is the most developed country in the world? They adduced a lot of reasons, but the primary reason, according to that research, was that they had no ground culture. No ground culture. It was the Red Indians that owned the place, but people came from different nationalities, and there was a cross-pollination of ideas, and that's why America is what it is. No tradition. So they are not sentimental. They just do what is right. It's like, no, everybody there is a foreigner. Maybe that's what we should try with Nigeria. Let Yoruba people move to the east, and Igbo people move to the north and occupy the place. Maybe we'll have the change. It's one of the things that we have emphasized with the Vice Chancellor as we discussed. That one of the things that is nipping our development is ethnicity. Sentiments, religious sentiment, political sentiments. And one of our shocks as we discuss is that how can somebody who says educated have ethnic sentiments? Because I believe that education makes you more objective. You reason better. All the cobwebs in your thinking is eliminated, at least to the barest minimum. But you can't believe it. Even the academia or the emphasizes ethnicity these days. We can't develop that way. Okay? So, we need both the quality and the quantity. Development will include education, gender equality, and women empowerment. Gender equality, not in terms of equal in size or height. I think the whole idea of gender equality is to mainstream gender so that opportunities for prosperity is equal between men and women. I think that's the whole idea, because development thinking is that women are weaker, but I don't think that's so now. We have women presidents, they are doing very well. Women are taking over all over the place. So we will mainstream the gender towards men now. Towards men. So, empower the weak is part of development. Women and children, they must be empowered. And men who are not empowered also is part of it. Of course, issues of development also includes increased life expectancy. For example, on the average, a Canadian is expected to die at 75. But a Nigerian is expected to die at 50. These are qualitative index of development. And of course, you have global belief that focus on these areas improve quality of life. So if we focus on this area, we see that there will be improvement. Let me quote Malaysia, 1986. Growth theories take economic structure as given and focus on short-term changes in the economy. The quantity of production, consumption, income, employment, or trade is important. Development theories focus on changes in economic structure over long term. Structural changes may refer to changes in industry mix, product mix, occupation mix, pattern of ownership and control, firm size and age, technologies in use, degree of competitiveness, and the like. I'm just trying to, by that, show us the difference between economic growth and development. If you want to measure economic development, the most widely used index is the gross domestic product per capita. That's the gross domestic product divided by the population. I tried to tabulate that for Nigeria for 2000 and in table 2, for 2009 to 2020. If you look at it, it rose to up to 2014 and then started sliding down from 2015. If you want to, if politicians want to use it, say, it's when the president came in, that's when this thing began to fall. they will look for that, but that's not really true. We have to do deeper analysis and find out that our economy is oil dependent. Whatever affects oil affects us. And at the point the president was coming in, the oil prices plummeted severely. At least it rose up to 100. I remember it rose up to 130 naira per barrel, dollar per barrel, sorry, and fell as low as 30 something before it rose back to around 50, 60. And it's stable now at about 40 something. Everything is dependent on oil, so that's where we need to shift away from. If you look at the graph there, you can see that we are not really developing. The graph shows that there's a rise and a fall. There's a rise and a fall. I want to add also one development index, the number of accountants per 1,000 of population is lowest. From that table, you see that is lowest for Nigeria. For somewhere like US, you have up to 911 per 1,000. In general, the following will indicate economic development. 1, low population growth rates. Occupation structure predominated by service and manufacturing as opposed to agriculturally dominated structure. This is what the literature says, but we can modify that. Agriculture these days, I don't think it's about hoe and cutlasses. When technology is involved in agriculture, we can also move it to areas of development. Okay? Higher percentage of persons living in urban rather than rural areas, consumption per capita, development of infrastructure, high literacy levels, high level of life expectancy, better health care. One other measure of development is the Human Development Index. And for Nigeria, for 2019, our index is 0.539. It's lower than the sub-Saharan average. If you want to compare it, the sub-Saharan average is 0.547. That difference may look minor, but on the index, that's big. The difference may be looking insignificant, but on the index itself is huge, which put Nigeria, our country, Nigeria, in low human development category and position us at 161 out of 189 countries, UNDP 2020. Of course, the next concept we look at is sustainable economic growth and development. Sustainable economic growth and development. We have already defined growth and development. To sustain it means that we are thinking of the future. We are thinking of the future. It's time to begin to think of the future. And the place to start to think of the future is the education of people in the primary school. I believe that there's some kind of philosophy that we can drain into those people at primary school level that can change this country, because at our level, change may be difficult. So we have to go back down there and begin to do things differently. Sustainability means meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. Thus, sustainable growth and development is current growth and development that does not jeopardize a country's ability to grow and develop in future. What is recession? A lot of this definition, but one by Schilling, one of the definitions I found very common is Shishkin's definition. It says a decline in seasonal and calendar-adjusted real gross domestic product in at least 2 consecutive quarters. So if you have GDP declining for 2 sessions, negative growth rate, that means a year-on-year growth rate now. If last year it was 50, if it reduced to 40 this year, that's a decrease, a negative growth rate, and then reduced to 30 again the next year. That's already a call for a recession. What's the state of Nigerian economy? We are just emerging from another recession since the 2016 recession. For the 4th quarter of 2020, of course, because there are 2 reasons for this last recession. is the lockdown, which affected economic activity, and of course, our major source of income, which are oil revenues. We can see that the state of the economy is reflected in a lot of negative social indices, like crime rate is increased, insecurity is increased, insurgency, political, ethnic, and religious tensions everywhere, the parochial and ethnic agitations for self-determination, willingness of citizens to die as economic slaves in some foreign country rather than return to Nigeria, massive brain drain, the army of unemployed and unemployable young graduates, upward flight of exchange rates, skyrocketing debt profile, double-digit inflation rates. The news is agog with a myriad of unpleasant indicators of the fallouts of deplorable state of the economy. The Nigerian Economic Outlook 2020, as described by the African Development Bank 2021, is not cheering. Overall gross domestic product shrank. The GDP for 2019 is 448 million. That's about 25% of the GDP of sub-Saharan Africa, which is 1.7 trillion. Okay, for 2020, the GDP was estimated at $439 trillion, indicating a negative growth rate of -1.9. The table 4 there shows a lot of it, a lot of the variables, including inflation rate, policy interest rate, money supply, public debt. All of them do not describe a good picture. Economic recessions in Nigeria. If you look at our table on page 16, you see that it's a zigzag. The economy, I try to chart, I use the data from World Bank National Account and OECD. I drew up the economic growth there. If you look at the growth rates there, something striking and which we must draw our attention to in this lecture. If you look at it, the worst case scenario was in 1967. That was the beginning of the Civil War. And then the highest is in 1970. That's the end of the Civil War. What does that tell us at this time? Those who are clamoring for war, they are clamoring for the destruction of the economy, once again. So we must, the figures are there. The worst time, the lowest growth rate in GPA was during the war. And the highest was when we were recovering from the war. So it's important for us to draw attention to these facts. We cannot afford another war. We must have to sit down, settle down, and have some talk. Diplomacy is the only way out now. One more war, even if we come out of that war, it will take us. And you know, the problem we're going to have, why we were fortunate then was that while we were coming out of the war, we entered into oil boom. That's one of the things that helped us at that last war. At this time when the oil prices are down, one more war, we have a lot of refugee camps around there. So please, we need to talk to ourselves and discuss how to move Nigeria forward. We had great discussion with the Vice Chancellor, and one of the things he said is that, look, even if we split Nigeria, he was telling me that he first started from, he was first of all a national of Midwest. Then he became a national of Western Nigeria. Then he became a national of Oyo State. Now he's a national of Osun State from his village. So you see, we are just breaking these things up. It will never be the solution. The solution is to sit down and decide on how we want ourselves to be governed. For example, I'm from Delta State. I told the Vice Chancellor, I went to do sabbatical there. I ran back from my own state. I ran away. Because unfortunately, I went to the side, the university I went to was on a side, an ethnic side that was not my own. So when they saw me there, they saw me as a stranger. And when they began their politics, I said, I'm not ready for this nonsense. I can't leave a federal university and come here and be playing games with people. I had to return back. So, if you like, break it into teacups. Teacup-sized states. You will still have division within those states. But our size, facing the whole world, is our advantage for now. Our size is an advantage. 206 million people. You can't beat us from the outside. So we just need to just put our house together. Now, if you look at from 1960 to 2002, you also find that the negative growth rates were about 14 times. Negative growth rates, 14 times. I counted it. It's there in table 5. Negative growth rates. We are not really growing. Okay? Where does the accountant come in? Of course, I try to analyze the reasons for our recession. And here is what I found. I say, apart from corruption, all other factors that precipitated recession can be traced to oil revenues, as observed by Teller 2070. You know, revenues is in accounting. When you say revenue, you're talking about quantity times price. Whatever affects the quantity of oil we sell or the price of oil affects our economy. Anything that can shock the price of the quantity affects the economy. And this is not really good for us. This is not good for us. We really need to. I think we have been paying lip service to diversification. And the government has tried a lot of things, sir, to try to diversify the economy. But any direction government faces, corruption will swallow it. Any direction. I know of a man that was giving loan, 45 million, to go and do farm. So this man went to and bought cars. When the manager of the bank went to look for him, he threatened the man. Send with talks to the man. And the man was afraid for his life. So I think if we can have some enforcement of law, and that will be, it's not a mean feat. Some people have taken laws into their hand. They are above the law. How can we grow like that? We have to look at that. People who want to do the right thing, there are many. But they are even afraid to do it because they don't want to lose their life for nothing. At least if you lose your life for something, it's good. But losing your life for nothing, because when you die, nobody will even remember you. Abi? But if you are elsewhere, if you die for a good cause, at least they will put your picture maybe in the Hall of Fame or something. Your picture will be nowhere. And so people are afraid. But we have to move away from that and move our country forward. The fifth section is the accountant, economic growth, and sustainable development. So I am at home now. I've been wondering since in the realm of economics. Let me come back home. Okay, the accountant, economic growth, and sustainable development. When I was doing my PhD, I tried to source grants from CIMA. I wanted to look at how management accounting can affect economic development, because I believe development doesn't just come. It comes from a collection of collection of activities of individual, corporate bodies, and government. So I was looking at corporations. If corporations are right, if they are doing, it means that the economy will do well. So I tried to look at the nexus between them. The role of the accountant is pervasive. Just imagine Osun State University without a bursary. Hey, even where there's bursary, there's problem. Not talk about when there's no bursary. You need accountant everywhere. In fact, some churches have employed so many chartered accountants that even corporations don't have them. Church, chartered accountants. We didn't hear those kind of things in the days of our fathers, but they are there now. Accountants are in government, non-governmental, everywhere where money is to be spent and accounted for, you need an accountant. The accountant bets a business, grows it, nurtures it, and buries it if there's a need to. Even where there's no business, an accountant is needed. An accountant is needed in both for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. The household, the firm, and the government require accounting to function effectively. Can you imagine a world without accountants? Let me help your imagination. It will be a world without trade, without commerce and industry. It will be a world without economic growth and development. It will be a world trapped in subsistence. The Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, CA 2012, observes as follows: accounting plays an essential role in economic development. High-quality corporate report is the key to improving transparency, facilitating mobilization of domestic and international investment, creating a sound investment environment and fostering investment confidence, thus promoting financial stability. A strong and internationally comparable reporting system facilitates international flow of financial resources, while at the same time helping to reduce corruption and mismanagement of resources. It also strengthens international competitiveness of enterprise in attracting external finance and taking advantage of international market opportunities. Let me look at some of this from that statement. Let me look at some of the issues raised. First of all, transparency. Transparency, which is seen as the golden rule in the new international financial system, connects economic growth and development via foreign direct investment. Where there's no transparency, where there's opacity in economic activity, people will not bring out their money. They will not come and invest in your country. They need clear financial reports, reliable financial reports, relevant financial reports before they can part with their money. Candido recently observed that it is lack of transparency that gives rise to crony capitalism. Know what crony capitalism? And consequently, to the virulent financial crisis witnessed by emerging financial market. You see, what's crony capitalism? Crony capitalism, just simply making laws to favor your cronies. That's crony capitalism. If you don't know government or know somebody's government, your business doesn't work. Imagine the government giving somebody the right to supply explosive, only one person. I know the man. In 1 year, he became a billionaire. So anybody who has advantage of crony capitalism can make billions overnight. While in the US, people are talking about antitrust legislations and checking whether somebody wants to be too big and try to control the economy and find a way to paralyze their bigness. Here, the government laws and regulations just make some people overly big. So if they give you power to supply salt, only you, to 200 million people, salt. Even if they buy 1 naira salt a day, 200 million a day for 365 days, you can go home and sleep for the rest of your life. That's crony capitalism, no competition. It's lack of transparency that causes that. Of course, without adequate, timely, and reliable financial information, capital markets will be vulnerable and unstable. Capital markets is where you invest money, where corporations get money to do their business. Nobody is going to go there and put his money there if there is opacity in the financial reports, if financial reports are not of high quality. And in fact, I have said that the most important invention or the greatest invention of man is not iPhone, no. It's not iPad, no. The greatest invention of man is what you call the limited liability company. There's nothing like it. You can pull funds from all over the world, from unknown faces, faceless people, running to trillions and direct it in one direction, yet reducing the risk for each of them. So powerful. That's the greatest invention of man. So even if you have an idea and you have no money to prosecute that idea is useless. But through the capital markets, if you have genuine idea, you can raise money. But nobody's going to go to capital markets if there's no accounting there, if there's no transparency there. And transparency can only be possible through accountability. The instability and vulnerability will in turn repair foreign investments. That's where the capital markets are unstable, which is crucial component of economic growth. One crucial component of economic growth is foreign direct investments. In 2020, using Corruption Perception Index, Transparency International ranks Nigeria 149 out of 180 countries. If that is anything to go by, then opacity is implied. Growth and development is limited. At the level of national governance, transparency allows a more lucid evaluation of past fiscal performance, current fiscal position, financial risk, and future direction of policy or fiscal policy. Moreover, with transparency, economic growth will more readily and easily translate into growth and development as corruption will be checked. All the growth we have experienced, they are not spread across. I am telling you, there are some people who can borrow Nigeria money. They can lend Nigeria money. One person. They can bring Nigeria out of debt crisis because they have amassed so much. It's because of lack of transparency. So transparency is not only going to bring about the growth, it will also help us to spread the resources to everybody. What is one person doing with 30 cars? What's the meaning of that? I don't understand. Why does one person want to own the whole city? It's lack of transparency. Where there's transparency, that's not possible. You cannot have everything. The laws will check you. The rules will find you out if there's transparency. So accounting is important because it contributes to transparency. According to Final and Law, transparency comprises the legal, political, and institutional structure that make information about internal characteristics of a government and society available to actors both inside and outside the domestic political system. Transparency is increased by any mechanism that leads to public disclosure of information, whether a free press, open government, hearings, or the existence of non-governmental organizations with an incentive to realize objective information about government. So where there's transparency, even fake news is allowed. We will correct it. We will find out that it's fake news. Where there's transparency, it's allowed. Transparency will show that this one is a fake news. It's when there's no fake news, we'll be doubting which one is fake news, which one is not fake news. When we operate real transparency, we'll be able to pick them up. Before they even do the fake news, we already pick them up because everybody's aware. But when we are clandestine, then people can bring information from the wrong source and then you will take it. But when it is open, all of us know where fake news will come from, and so we can track it. But when you try to gag the press or gag the social media, it won't work. It won't work. People will find way. And when you are gagging them, that's the more reason why they will now have power to misinform the public. Yes. There can be no transparency without disclosure of information as implied by Fennell and Law 1999. Probably the most important disclosure will be financial information of government. Accountants are the cause of disclosure of financial information about the source and use of economic and financial resources. It is in this regard that accounting affects economic growth via ensuring transparency in financial and economic transaction. Sometimes I wonder how it is possible to loot government dry when they are accountants. I used to wonder it. Is it that the rules were not followed? There are rules. Once there is an accountant, if we don't want you to cheat, you can't cheat. Maybe again, like we said, there are gunslingers all around. Maybe the fear of gunslingers is the beginning of wisdom. Some people are afraid. But if we follow accounting rules, there will be no leakage. The books show it. They will show where the money is going through and where it is coming from and who is using what. We can trace it. Again, through the mobilization of domestic and international investment, accounting helps to facilitate economic growth. By providing information on profitability, viability, and returns on investment, accounting helps investors to mobilize funds for investment. Internal accounting provides investment appraisal to assist management. I was talking about management accounting now. Management accounting is internal accounting. That is trying to get, there's a paper I wrote, knowing tomorrow, the management accountant. So the role of the management accountant is to make you know tomorrow by providing information that extrapolate to the future. We gather data and try to, on the whole, behavior is what you get in the average. When you want to predict, you use averages. So we take data, we can predict which direction this thing is going based on such data. That's what the management accountant does for you, so that you don't misallocate your resources. We want to see whether this project will add value to us. We call on the management accountant to assess it. By so doing, our companies will now be effective and efficient. By so doing, if our company grows, then our economy too will grow, because no economy grows without companies or businesses. Okay, so to that extent, in sum, information provided to both management and investor helps the channeling of productive resources to their best use and supporting economic growth and development. The survival and growth of business invariably leads to growth and development of the economy. However, accounting information is the life wire of business growth and survival. In fact, research have shown that many businesses fail for lack of accounting records. okay, for lack of accounting records. If you look at most of these small businesses, they don't keep records. So they think to, if you want to grow your business, there are many things you need to use. There are some experts you need to use. You need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need a banker, you need a manager, you need a mentor. These are some of the people you need. But you really need an accountant. How can you have a school of 1,000 people and you don't have an accounting office there? I've seen it. 1,000 students are in school. But at the end of the day, the man regretted it because, these people, they will go to the bank, take a teller and stamp it by themselves. So they were not doing bank reconciliation. And many people graduated from the school and without paying school fees. The average person. Without paying school fees. It was when the business was not going on. Man said, what's going on here? He started to do some accounting investigation and found out that it was lack of an accountant. Pay an accountant, you will stop fraud. You can stop 1 billion naira fraud paying an accountant just 100,000. Yes. So it's not expensive. It is the fraud, the consequence of fraud and mismanagement that is expensive. The investment environment is crucial to economic growth and development. A business environment can be hostile or friendly. A hostile investment environment increases business risk, and a friendly environment reduces the risk of business. These are both negative and positive effects, respectively, on investor confidence. That's where accountants also come in. We build investors' confidence. When a set of accounts is audited and certified by an accountant, it is believable. It is this believability that drives business. This thing called business confidence. Do you know that the moment there's a signal, there's a signal that there's going to be war, before you know, some of these foreign investments are already packing away because of lack of confidence. But when our accounts are prepared on time with high quality, it will increase the confidence of those who want to invest in that business. And with that, what drives business is simply business confidence. That's what there's so much risk in business that anybody will want to take up anything without confidence. We need to enhance our confidence. Of course, it must be stated here that countries with strong and comparable accounting reporting systems will curtail mismanagement of resources and corruption, thus ensuring international flow of resources. This will ultimately lead to economic growth and development. Let me look at recession, practical lessons. I have itemized the practical lessons there. What are the lessons that we need to learn from our recession? The basic lesson anybody should learn from anything is what is the cause. I think when we know the cause, profiling the cure will be easy for us. From all that we have said through this lecture, some of the causes of this recession include mismanagement of external reserve built up by rise in oil prices. The accountant needs to come in there to mitigate and to prevent this mismanagement. Corruption, of course, we have seen that corruption thrives where there is no transparency. Delay in the formation of cabinet, introduction of TSA, wrong timing in the removal of oil subsidy, delay in budget approval, fall in oil prices, war and general insecurity, and of course, COVID-19 lockdown. There are some of these things, these lessons that are not basically accounting. But I can tell you, accounting is both preventive and curative. We can prevent the problem. We can prevent a recession. Using the Joseph's formula, there was a time of boom. He said to the king, say, look, the biblical Joseph now. He said, look, there's going to be a time of abundance for 7 years. After that, there will be a time of leanness. So what do? We have to draw a line through the up and down. We draw a line through the middle. So, okay, we'll store up for the rainy day. Accounting can help us to do that. Where there's modesty, there cannot be recession. Recession can only come where there's mismanagement. Even in your personal life, as an individual, you can have recession if you mismanage your salary. You can end up being a beggar and a borrower before the end of the month. But I have learned from my little experience that at every level that I was as an employee, I was able to meet my needs. I didn't have to borrow from anybody. I started life as a laborer. I was a laborer on the side. And I didn't borrow from anybody. As a laborer. I even was lending for money because I will not do what's not in my power. That's my own. I will not go and borrow money to bury my father. No way. I'm wondering, somebody calling me say, I want to bury my father. Can you give me money? I said, what's the meaning of that? I will fund your father's burial. No, I buried my father too. I didn't make noise about it. Didn't do ceremony about it. The dead is gone. But while they are alive, we tried for them. We did our best for them. How can you enter into debt to bury? You will now invite 2,000 people. And then you feed each of them with 2,000 naira. Because per head is about 2,000 and one plate of rice. Mr. Biggs. That gives you 4 million. You can do well with that when you put it in treasury bills. Yeah? At least those days used to give us so much money, but now I think it has crashed. So we need to be prudent. When you have an account, I'm sure when they come to boss say there's no money, there's no money. Say, this boss too, they say there's no money. That's the training of accountant. We must make sure that when there's 100 million, we'll say there's no money. Yes. Because if you know there's money, you want to spend everything. When I got into the dean's office, I said I'll be declaring the account every month. I just found out that when I declare the account, so there's so much money. They will come for an attack at the faculty's fund. I say, no, these people, I will not declare anymore. When I finish my stewardship, I'll write my report for them. So the accountant will help us. But more importantly, look, we have had these cycles of recession and boom of recession, and everything is tied to our oil. So why can't we move like other nations? The resources that we get from our oil, can we not translate it into agriculture, for example? When I was coming, I said Nigeria can never be poor. It's not going to be possible. What we need is just put the right people in the right place. Nigeria can never be poor. The land I saw from Benin to this place, unoccupied land, arable land, we can't be poor. It's not possible. Forget oil. We are too rich. God has blessed us. How much of the space have we occupied? When you talk about wealth, you are talking about land. Israel doesn't have any land. But they are controlling the world. I met one Israeli one time. He said, look, what we do, we recycle 90% of water. Rain that falls, 90%. We recycle it. And we do agriculture all year round. All year round. So we are wealthy. We don't even need to do irrigation. The rain is coming. We don't need it. We can have farms all year round. So anybody saying if there's no oil, we will not make it, it's just like we had a great discussion with VC. I always refer to it. VC say, look, I'm just even waiting for that oil to finish. And that's true. Say they call it the Dutch disease or the oil curse. We can turn away from it. Some countries have oil and they did not bring their oil out. They are not bringing it out. They are just using other things to run their economy. And it's still working for them. Some countries don't have any product. We are not going to run and leave Nigeria. We must change this country by God's grace. From recession to economic growth and development, the role of professional accountants. Here's our role, finally. Knowledge sets both cure and prevention functions. Accounting is not different. Accounting has potential not only to cure recession, but also to prevent it. From the catalog of causes of recession in the last section, it is clear that Nigerian recession is a product of socioeconomic and political factors. Accounting is a multidimensional discipline. If properly deployed, can curb and cure recession. Accounting is a service activity that generates financial information from financial data to allow individual, corporate bodies, and government to make informed decisions as to the use of scarce economic resources. Thus, there are a plethora of dimensions of accounting. We shall examine these dimensions. So I want to look at the dimensions of accounting and how it will help us to prevent recession and lead to economic growth. Firstly, accounting is about reporting on the financial economic transactions of business entity with a view to providing information about the performance, position, value added, and cash flow to primarily the owners of the business and other interested secondary users. This form of accounting is referred to as stewardship or financial accounting stroke reporting. By its very nature, financial accounting is historical It presents financial history of the business. The relevance of the study of history to the present is well articulated in literature. In particular, history teaches us lessons or gives us analogies to shed light on the present and direct the future. That's why we need business history, the financial history of the business. So how do you start a business without records? You won't have history. And if you don't have a past, you can never have a future. If management of business puts the knowledge of financial history of their business to work, they are empowered to understand where the business is coming from, where it is, and where it is going. In other words, management is able to develop recession survival strategies, which are principally creation of shock-absorbing reserves to strengthen capital base in the period where the economy is not in recession. This is synonymous to the military slogan, "In times of peace, prepare for war," and to the counsel of biblical Joseph to Pharaoh, "In times of surplus, prepare for scarcity." If this thinking permeates and pervades corporate thinking, then the corporations will develop bulwarks against recession, and economic growth and development will be attainable. Another dimension of accounting is auditing. It's an attest function. From a privileged professional position, the professional accountant can examine a set of financial statements and underlying records and give a professional opinion as to the credibility or otherwise of the statement. This attest function builds investors' trust and confidence. If this confidence is removed from an economy, the result will be recession. The power of an audit to prevent a recession is primarily a function of its quality. Low quality audit, which is a result of lack of auditor independence and incompetence, have had a foundation of several corporate collapse. Now, many of the corporate collapses I've had, we say that either the auditor was incompetent or he was not independent. High quality audits, many of the companies audited by Otto Anderson in the Great Depression. Otto Anderson is an accounting firm. During the Great Depression in the US, all the companies that Otto Anderson audited survived. That's how the man made a name. They had a zero tolerance for lack of following rules. They stuck to the rules. They were not making so much money before then. But after the depression, government recommended them that this auditing firm produces high quality reports, and that's how the company became an international company. But in 2002, after the Enron saga, this same company that rose by integrity fell by dishonesty, shattered and scattered. There's no way you find Otto Anderson again because of lack of integrity. So, lack of integrity is only a short-run position of prosperity. Ultimately, there will be a crash. So, the power of an audit depends on the quality of the audit. Many of the companies audited by Otto Anderson in Great Depression survived the Great Depression because of Otto Anderson's insistence on high-quality audits and the adherence to high ethical and professional standards. We are all now aware of the extinction of this business. Well, with government accounting, we are trying to check the source and the use of government funds. And thank God now we have international public sector accounting standards that is trying to gear public sector accounting towards private sector thinking, so that it's not just budget and spend. No. We want to think in terms of the economy, the efficiency, the value that has been added by your expenditure. That dimension has to come in. The Edo State government is in that direction. I think I've been in one or two of their consultancies where they use corporate techniques and terms to do their government business, and they seem to be getting good result out of it. There's no wastage. It's only in the public sector you can waste. When you deal with business as a private business, it will be difficult for anybody to mismanage. So accounting at the level of government must take into cognizance the need for transparency and accountability. Of course, we have cost and management accountants. Without costs, we cannot have price. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to a recession, the fastest way to come out of a recession is to cut costs. In fact, cost accounting itself developed in the recession. During the period of, during the dark ages where companies were going down, they had to develop alternative ways of producing and reducing costs. So why do you want to increase the cost of governance when there's a recession? We have to start from there. Because all costs, as far as we are concerned, with Nigeria, all the problems are coming from cost of governance. Because, for example, I postulated, I said, why will students not pay school fees? Even though I went to school sponsoring myself, I paid school fees at that time. Why would you say students should not pay school fees? It will not work again. Free education will not work. But we cannot advocate that. Why? Because of cost of governance. When you say students should pay school fees, they are saying, why should this person be earning so much? And then we have a problem. But the right thing to do is for students to pay school fees. I have 70,000 students in university beneath they pay 150 only. Only 150,000 for 70,000. It will run that university without government. But now they don't want to pay. And I told them when the visitation panel came, I said, you don't want to pay? No problem. The government will make sure that those universities are destroyed. The way we have destroyed primary school, we have destroyed public secondary school, and everybody is moving their children to private primary school, we are going to get to that level. If we don't do something now, you will now end up paying the 2 million you don't want to pay if you want the real education. It's the truth. Who is going to bail the cat? The government that's ready to cut costs and show cost cutting by example. It has to be by example. Tax practitioner and forensic accountant, the environmental accountant, and the accountant all have roles to play in preventing and curbing recession. The actions, reactions, inactions at all levels of household, firm, and government at the micro level will ultimately tell on the macroeconomy. Proper computation of tax liabilities based on high financial reports will make funds available and revenue available to government for growth and development, provided those funds are not mismanaged or diverted for personal use. If you look at all we're saying, is that look, if you have an accountant, we can prevent a recession. If you have an accountant, we can actually cure a recession. It's not, a world without accounting is unimaginable. That means it's going to be a world without money. Because wherever there's money, and you want money to be properly used, then you must need an accountant. So if you must come out of recession, we as professional accountants, we have a great deal of role to play. Business circles, conclusion, I recommend. Business circles are, such as a recession, are inevitable. But with proper deployment of knowledge of accounting, will limit their effects on the economy and speed up recovery from recession. There's no way there will be no recession. In fact, there have been about 5 global recessions since 1975. Our focus should be to deal with social, cultural, and political opposition to effective deployment of accounting. The weapon to do this is called sanction. Without sanctions, enforcement will be weak and unproductive. The way to go is to set the tone at the top, loud and clear, that mismanagement and corruption will not be tolerated. The best way to do so, to do this, is to pull down crony capitalism by using erring cronies as scapegoats. I like my governor. I always talk about my governor, Edo State governor. When he got into the place, he was just driving past. He just saw a structure on the land. He said, this land is government land. They said, it's your brother that built it. It's your relation that built the house. They said, my relation built it. Tomorrow morning, I want to see the building down. He brought the building down. And everybody said, wow, if this man can do this to his cousin, you have to be very careful. You have to send the message. Using people that are close to you. If you don't use them, if you want to do partiality, your authority will not stand. That's the problem we're having. We need some really objective leader. Here's the ultimate solution. The nagging issue of corruption and mismanagement of economy. Leadership by example at the top. Because failure is always at the top. This top could be top of the country, state, local government, organization, institution, professional institutions, community, family. The higher the position of leadership that sets the example, the more the impact of that example. Thank you.
Please, if you enjoy the lecture, can we appreciate the guest lecturer once again? Thank you very much, Professor Leslie Heyesondabo. Please, can we have our seat? So everybody sitting beside an accountant, please, can we quickly appreciate them? The university bossa, thank you very much, sir. And all the accountants in the building, thank you very much. Let me quickly recognize the presence of the executives of Candido Trust Fund who are joining us online. Mama Sasegbon, thank you very much for joining us. We will recognize you. Also, Mama Heret Hade Balogun, thank you very much. Mama Hairat Ade Balogun. Chief Afolabi Igbarola, also one of the Board of Trustees, thank you very much, is joining us online. Good, thank you very much. He's even here physically. Thank you very much, sir. Alaji Busari Olaiwola, thank you very much. Please let us appreciate him. Thank you very much. Also, the chairman of Osun Internal Revenue Services, Prince Adegbite Ademikora, thank you very much for coming. And the director of taxes, Osun State Internal Revenue, Alaji Olaiton, thank you very much for coming. We have a lot of people that are saving our monies here. Thank you very much for ensuring that we are safe and for telling us that there is no money. We really appreciate you for that. Media, please, can we have the chairman? On this note, we'll be moving to the remarks by the chairman of this event, who happens to be the president of ICANN Nigeria, Mrs. Comfort Olu Eyitayo Hemena FCA. Please, media, can we have her online? Media, please, we need to do something. We cannot hear the chairman.
Nineteenth and 20th centuries. University, Professor Labode Popola, FFAN, Order Management of Osun State University. The guest lecturer, Professor Leslie Heyesondabo. Distinguished participants, both physical and virtual, ladies and gentlemen. I feel greatly honored to be the chairman at this great occasion of the Candido Da Rocha Annual Memorial Lecture hosted by the Osun State University. Indeed, it is appropriate to immortalize the pleasant memory of Chief Candido Da Rocha, one of the great indigenes of Osun State, who lived between 19th and 20th centuries. Chief Da Rocha was a renowned businessman, landowner, and creditor. 62 years after his death, the country still has a lot to learn from Chief Da Rocha's business acumen and efficient management resources. This is highly necessary if we would emerge strong from the lackluster performance currently characterizing the Nigerian economy. I acknowledge the presence of the Vice Chancellor of the university once again, Professor Labode Popoola and his management team. Thank you for extending this invitation to me. I also recognize the presence of the guest speaker, Professor Leslie Eyeson Dabo. With over 2 decades experience in accounting, education, and capacity building, I have no doubt that Professor Dabo would do justice to the topic of this memorial lecture. He would provide a rich and interesting perspective to the subject and avail us practical recommendations. The theme for this memorial lecture is topical: sustainable economic growth and development during recession, practical lessons, and professional accountant solution. With the social and economic challenges facing the nation, a regular and constant discussion on the modalities of achieving sustainable growth becomes imperative. With inflation rate over 18%, unemployment rate over 30%, and the high volatility in the foreign exchange window, the country is unarguably at its lowest ebb on economic performance. Although there has been modest improvement in gross domestic product, GDP, with the country emerging from recession in the 4th quarter of 2020. This was after the coronavirus, COVID-19, induced recession in the 3rd quarter of 2020. This marginal growth of GDP is, however, yet to translate to visible improvement in citizens' welfare. As trained managers of financial resources in the country, accountants are no doubt well positioned to assist the country in navigating the peculiar challenges imposed by COVID-19 and other crises facing the nation. As accountants act in the public interest, we contribute to national growth and development through the services we provide to the different segments of the economy. Today, Professor Dabo would take us through a practical and engaging session on the role of accountants in promoting sustainable growth and development. I wish to encourage us all to pay rapt attention, as I am confident of Professor Dabo's expertise to provide us feasible and enriching perspective on this topic. Once again, on behalf of the Governing Council and the entire membership of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, I want to congratulate the organizers for the annual lecture. It is no doubt going to be an enlightening and incisive session. I am grateful to the organizers for this great opportunity and thank you all for your attention. God bless Osun State University. God bless the state of Osun. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Can we please appreciate the President of ICAN Nigeria once again? It was indeed a great lecture. On this note, I would like to quickly invite the Vice Chancellor of this great citadel of learning, Professor Labode Popoola, to come and present the award to the guest lecturer and the scholarship award to the student of accounting and the university.
Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I met this colleague the first time in my life less than 2 hours ago. But everything he has said is what I have also been saying, particularly to our colleagues. We can continue. Most of the solutions to our problems in this country rest with the university system, rest with us as individuals. You cannot borrow to celebrate funeral service. It doesn't make sense. You shouldn't even borrow to celebrate a marriage ceremony. It doesn't make sense. It's just consumption. Consumption doesn't help development. It's production that helps development. So, Professor Dabo, we want to sincerely appreciate you for the excellent delivery of practical knowledge. We deeply appreciate your effort. And so on behalf of the university and in commemoration of the second Candido Da Rocha Annual Memorial Lecture, we want to hand over this plaque to you as a token of appreciation of the excellent delivery of this lecture. Thank you very much. This is from Osun State University. This is a way of adding to your luggage when people visit us.
I would like to quickly invite Makinde Ruth Omolayo.
Well, one of the innovations in this lecture series is an award of scholarship to the best student. It's a token, I won't mention it. If I mention it, it won't make meaning. But it's something that is valuable and very deserving of a student who is diligent in his or her ways. And so on behalf of the Candido Da Rocha family and the chair, Candido Da Rocha chair, we like to present this token, the plaque first, to Ms. Makinde Ruth Omolayo, a student of accounting whose CGPA as we speak is 4.81, almost perfect. It goes with a letter of award, also to Ruth for her diligence. And this is the check for the scholarship.
Thank you very much. It is good to be good. It is not easy to have that CGPA. And on this note, I would like to invite the council chairman, with the permission of the vice chancellor. I'd like to invite the council chairman and the pro-chancellor of the university, Malam Yusuf Ali SAN, for the closing remarks.
The members of council that are here, the vice chancellor, the deputy vice chancellor, the registrar, the bursar and the librarian, members of the management of the university, the members of the Board of Trustees of the Da Rocha Foundation, members of the family who are benefactors, staff and students, invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be here. When we scheduled a council meeting for today, the idea of this lecture crept in. And it was with a lot of joy that we agreed to shift our council meeting to 1 p.m. from 10 a.m. so that we could be part of this very epochal, historic lecture. You have seen from the presentation of Professor Edeba that the age of Solomon has nothing to do with the wisdom. The age of Methuselah has nothing to do with the age of Solomon. When his CV was being read, some people were thinking, 1970, I was already in... But then you now see that to know more is to be more. Even those who are old enough to be his parents there have learned certain things from him. Especially his interventions outside of the paper when he was presenting. You will have seen that his age, his experience belies his age, apparently. And you will see that he's a very deep academic. For me, I've learned a lot. And the quick takeaways for me is that prudence, either in your personal or public life, is a signpost for success. Number two is that, look, our attitude to think that government can do everything, we are totally missing the point and wasting our time. Almost 10 years ago, NUC commissioned a study on the costs of educating an undergraduate in the Nigerian university system. And for what we term the less expensive courses, which you don't require laboratories, you don't require any other thing. The average cost for a student per annum was 650,000 naira if you were to pay premium to get educated. But you continue to wonder about our attitude. And the Yoruba has captured this thing graphically. And that is apparent from the way we behave in the universities today. Because it's almost free. For those of us who are parents, who pay almost 1 million naira plus for secondary school students, are we not cutting our noses to spite our eyes by insisting that undergraduates cannot pay more than 50,000 naira? Are we really serious? And my attitude, actually my argument usually, at least for people who are Yoruba people, is that look, it's better for them to pay higher school fees so that it will reduce the problem of owambes that we do. People borrow money to celebrate birthday, to celebrate death day, to celebrate weddings, to celebrate all sorts of funny things. And I believe that the less resources that is available on frivolities, the better for the society. And when you talk about people have it. Look, the way we are going, and the guest lecturer has made the point. Our public school, primary schools gone. We attended public primary school. And the quality of what we had, in spite of the low education of our teachers, the best qualified at that time would be grade 2 teachers. The best qualified. There were grade 3 teachers. And there were people who just finished primary school, in the same school, who came to teach. But we had the best of quality of education. For those of us who are privileged to go to modern school, it was the same. Then secondary school. And then slowly, the decline set in. Slowly, we are losing all our values. And slowly, we are losing ourselves. I think this is a call to rediscover ourselves. The same system that produced all those who went to school in the 60s to early part of the 70s in primary schools in Nigeria, who became world beaters in their different fields, we can replicate and go back to those systems. Otherwise, we will all end up making money for the capitalists who are establishing private schools. I was in a private university on Friday, and just out of curiosity, of course I knew, I now asked the dean, I said, look, for law in this university, in that particular private university, what is the average cost for a new student coming in? He said about 1.2 million naira. Returning students, 800,000. I'm aware of a private university in this country where law students pay 2.5 million naira. And medical students pay 6 million naira. Yes. That's about it. Look, if you want to send your child to the UK today to read medicine or law, that's about the amount you are going to pay for school fees, 6 million. It's be higher now with the exchange rate to 500 and something naira. I'm talking of the time if the exchange rate has been maybe something like 300. Because the prices of things are never denominated in naira. If you want to set up a laboratory, the best thing we can produce in a laboratory in this country probably is the table. The burette, the pipette, everything, you have to import. So, what am I saying? We must be prepared. You see, the days of freebies are gone. If we want to get serious about education in our country. And that is why I want to call on well-to-do Nigerians. The way to go is to institute more bursaries and scholarships to alleviate the inevitable increase in school things in this country. Not even the federal government can carry it alone. And for your university, it's an open secret that at least since we came on board in 2016, we've been very lucky. Personnel cost. This university augments what government gives to us by as much as 50-55% every month to pay salaries from IGR. And the condition is not likely to improve because the economy is not improving. The lecturer said so, and it's a common knowledge. And I tell people, when CBN comes out with its figures of the third largest economy in the world, the biggest economy in Africa, I said, look, that is only in CBN. Oh. The average person on the streets who is paying 10 times for pepper than what they paid last month cannot understand that GDP is increasing when people are dying of hunger. So let those who are blessed, let them intervene by way of scholarships, bursaries, and other awards. You see that little girl, Ruth, such a brilliant girl. If she does not have the opportunity, she'll probably be selling coconut or granite somewhere. We cannot afford to lose our best brains. This country will not move. So please, I want to call on all of us. Let's talk to our cousins, our uncles, our nephews who are blessed. UNIOSUN is a place you can invest, and you can go to sleep that the money you have given, whatever you have given to us, will be properly managed. I give you that assurance, at least as long as we are here. And the reason is simple. This university is very lucky with the crop of people in the management and council who do not depend on this university for their daily lives. God sparing our lives. We will continue to strive to try to do the very best. And for our information, the university did not source for this endowment. This was in the will of somebody. And when I became chairman, Mrs. Irat Balogun, the first woman attorney general in Nigeria, the first woman to become the chairman of Board of Benchers in Nigeria, called me up and said, I'm an executrix of a will. Some money had been left in the will for your university. That was how we started this journey. So we ask for men and women of goodwill. And as we are speaking, the Alakija family is building for us a world-class 250-bed teaching hospital at the cost of over $30 million. This is the kind of intervention we are praying for. The dual carriageway that carried you from the Obokun Road onto the campus was built with the goodwill of people. It did not cost this university a kobo or the state government. So these are the kind of interventions we are praying for, so that our children and children's children would enjoy quality education that would serve humanity. And lastly, and this is food for thought, the lecturer said he went to certain schools and he was taught by expatriates. Some of us that are schooled in this country, that went to university in this country in the 70s, will attest to it that IFE, UNILAG, ABU, Ibadan, they are our undergraduate foreigners who schooled with us. Americans, Britons, and other nationals. How many people are from Togo in any Nigerian university today, from Togo? We'd rather ship our children to Togo to train. I think we should examine ourselves, all of us that have anything to do with university education in our country. Like the late MK Abiola will say, and I apologize, I'm going to say the way he said it, so you can then translate. Only he said, Abimanile Pano, Alo Soruko Renile Koko, Solan Rewaju Niyanyi, Abolan Renyi. Have a good day.
I believe we can do better for the Pro-Chancellor. We can do better for the Chairman of Governing Council. Thank you very much. We can have our seat. On this note, we'll quickly invite the University Registrar, Mr. Gafar Adebayo Shitu, to come and do the vote of thanks. Please let us appreciate the registrar.
Well, I first of all want to appreciate Almighty God because we plan and God has made it possible for us to have this day. We thank God for that. Then again, my appreciation goes to the family of Aina Omolulu Molele, and particularly Mrs. Irat Balogun for executing the ways of the late Mrs. Abimbola Omolulu Aina Molele, with sum of 58 million naira to this university. Because if that one is not done, we cannot be here today. I really appreciate them. And also the trustees of the trust fund for actually their high degree of commitment. I really do that. Then again, I want to appreciate the chairman of this occasion. That's Mrs. Comfort Olu Eitayo, who is the president of ICANN and a woman of a timber and caliber, who has accepted to give laudable remarks to this program. I really appreciate you. To our indefatigable Pro-Chancellor, Malam Yusuf Olaoluwale, SAN, you could see the way he has delivered the lecture. You can say he's even a professor emeritus indeed. And again, you could see his love for education. The council is to hold by 10 a.m. He changed it to 1 p.m. because of his love for education, and he wants all the council members to join this lecture. Have you really enjoyed the lecture? There's no doubt we have really enjoyed the lecture indeed. So I want to say thank you for the laudable works we are doing here, because it's not only for this lecture. We have uncountable things you have done for us, and I'm sure posterity will never forget what you have done in this university. Thank you. To our team leader, you know our team leader? That's our Vice Chancellor. He prefers to become our team leader because he will never do anything alone or single-handedly. He believes in collectivity and collectivism. So he has been doing it like that. And in fact, if it is possible for us to change the law to have the second term or the third term, but it's because we really enjoy him. We thank you for that. So thank you, my Vice Chancellor. Then to the lecturer of today, Professor Leslie ASN Dabo. If they say someone is brilliant to the core, you see the meaning now. He got 8A when he was in secondary school. And when you talk of a high Q, that's intelligent quotient. That is of the highest order for him, because I can say he's a gifted. And he has never missed a promotion. Just studied the CFE. From the year 2006, he has been having that constant promotion. Suppose he have that provision we have here in their own university of having accelerated promotion, I'm sure he will have got accelerated promotion. And you have seen the way he has delivered the lecture, indeed. By the time I met him at the Vice Chancellor's office, I was saying, this is a small man or a small boy. But you could see, the IQ and the way he has presented. You could now see that, no. So it is not that, it's only the size that is matter. It is the main that is more important. Then again, I want to appreciate the council members for actually doing it well. When we change the time from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That means that at least we may not finish the meeting till 6 p.m. And the reason is that, the meaning is that we have to sleep in the hotel for today. So that's sacrifice of highest order, because they are here, not because of the benefits they will have, but because of the service for humanity. I want to appreciate Professor Solomon Akiboye. I want to appreciate our mama, Professor Abeke Motoso, and Professor Alao, and all other council members that are here. I appreciate you. Then to the fellows of chartered accountants, of which my boss is also a member, I want to appreciate all you all. And to the organizers of these occasions, you've really done well. And in actual fact, it has been a perfect order. And to the media and everybody that's here, I want to say I appreciate you all. Thanks so much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Registrar. Can we please rise for the anthem? Thank you very much. Please let us have our seats, and the people on the high table move outside to take the group photograph. Please, all the council members are to join the group photographs outside. Also, the members of Board of Trustees of Candido Da Rocha should please join the group photograph. The ICANN chairman of Shogwan District Society should please join the group photograph outside too. Please, all the council members should join the group photograph. The photographer is waiting for us outside. We sincerely appreciate those that are currently
A citadel of learning, a world-class institution, building disciplined leaders, building quality lives, globally competitive graduates are the product of UNIOSUN, home